like the idea of this. That might be quite nice, so I can talk to you. Hi, I'm Jaane. I'm Jaane Rowehl. I am the Museum Development Officer for Hampshire Solent. And as such, a little bit of a jack of all trade, in the sense that sometimes we give out a little bit of money, sometimes we're just there to be supportive and to have one-to-one relationships. But mainly what we do is try to help museums come together in networks, share their learning, and therefore become stronger and more resilient out of that. And if you don't know your Museum Development Officer already, I would only recommend get in touch. Right, let's see how this goes. Right, we've heard it all before, so I won't bore you, but here are just some of the figures that have led us to this understanding that income generation and diversification of income are so important to the museum sector. Despite the excellent work that Arts Council are doing on our behalf, and the economic impact survey showed that every £1 that public sector grants go into museums generate £3 in return, still we're having this continuous reduction in our public sector funding. So just come out at the end of last year is what the Museum Association found, how museums are dealing with it, and we've already heard it, and very eloquently, especially from our shared enterprise projects, about the importance of having the self-generated income support filling that gap. I can see that on the ground. Oh, I'm not entirely sure what happened to my diagram. Oh, there it is. Right, it's the interactive part. If you can imagine what, no. And I can see that happening on the ground. As a museum development officer looking after roughly about 100 different organizations, I can see that museums are approaching their income diversification really from very many angles, and it helps me to think of it through the prism of an Ansoff matrix. Now, I'm sure you've already used this anyway in your museums, but if not, I can only wholeheartedly recommend it. It's a very easy, simple way to look at it, which is obviously to start with the bread and butter, which is to try and make more profit of what you already do, the market penetration. And then as effort and risk improve, as you move downwards, either develop the product that you give to the same audiences or use the same product for a new audience, and then finally the holy grail of a new product to a new audience, which of course is very risky, but also of course if it can give you a profit, then a very lucrative thing to do. So the kind of examples I want to just quickly share with you. We have a fantastic effort made by the historic dockyards in Portsmouth, for example, who are going to train all their staff at the National Museum of the Royal Navy on sales skills. So whether you'll meet the curator or you'll meet the front of house team, they will try as an organization to step up their sales. I'd be interested to have your feedback next time you visit to see whether that's working. Coming down to audience development, classic example from Carisbrooke Castle on the Isle of Wight, who have used their outreach boxes that nobody was really booking anymore for a really very useful new venture with the care homes on the island. They have started off with a small grant just to trial out, and are now turning a reasonably healthy profit on sending their volunteers out and working in partnership with those businesses. And in terms of service development, I've already warned you about this, went in my holidays with my family to my local museum in Havant this spring, and they very kindly upsold me a trail that normally the spring is for free, I should say. And this was a very useful tool that made me not only buy theatre tickets while I was there, use the cafe, but also it just gave me something else to do. I could go there any day of the week. On that day, I did something I was rightly charged for. When it comes to diversification, however, things are a little bit more difficult. And in my personal experience, I find that the best way to move into that area is really by opportunity. It's very opportunistic. And so I thought I'd share one example with you from my previous life when I was the director at Fishbourne Roman Palace. Because what happened there was this. I was about a year in post when I had a phone call in the evening, out of office, of course. And a wonderful lady from a production team supporting the BBC called me up with the question, I would like to pitch Roman food to the hairy bikers. What do you know about Roman food? And she didn't ask me how I can possibly kind of have her film at my site or anything like that. She basically wanted a freebie. But out of that, we were able to not only turn that particular engagement into a very, very helpful prime-time BBC advert for the museum that I'm sure we'll have a rerun on. So if you want to see food from afar, from the palace, look out. But also we learned a really, really valuable lesson, because at that point, and I'm sure for many museums working with TV actually might not be innovation, but for us at that point, it was a complete and utter whirlwind learning experience. We had never had the BBC there before. As an organisation, we hadn't really explored our IPR very much anyway. And of course, their planning horizons are a lot faster than something that we had been planning on before. So I had to learn really quick. And I think what we did worked really well, because over the next few months, we became a little bit more au fait about how to approach the media inquiries that we had, turning them into things that worked for us as well. I'm particularly proud of something I don't show you here, is I had a negotiation with a French TV provider who had to pay us despite never actually filming with us. So you can see I got much more savvy at the end. But we thoroughly enjoyed the fact that these guys were here, Gardener's Question Time, and you never normally see Bob Honeydew, but that's what he looks like when he peers through a Roman mask. And each of them, I'll be proud to say, did actually have to pay to come and be at the museum. Which leads me on to just sharing with you some of the things that I learned on that whirlwind tour of taking opportunity out of that one phone call that came one evening. Which is really that what really worked in our favour was that we had a USP. People knew what they could expect, and they knew that because we had had tens of thousands of school children coming every year, and what they remembered was a Roman kitchen. So what the lady that called me remembered that 15 years ago, before she was a BBC producer, she had been in that Roman kitchen, and that's what she remembered, and that's why she called us. So if you know what you stand for and you can communicate that to your media contacts, then they will know to contact you, and that of course will hopefully open that opportunity for you. Secondly, I was really lucky. I can't even remember why I was in the office at that time, but if somebody else had been that evening in the office, I really couldn't have blamed them if they had said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not doing your job for you. So I was lucky, I was there, I had enough free space in my head to answer her, to be really positive about it, and she was really ready to have that conversation with us. But I think it's ultimately to be opportunistic about your business means that you have to make sure that that first contact that your new business partner has with you is one that they want to take further. If they don't really want to, or feel that you don't want to engage with them on that first contact, likelihood you will never get anywhere. Thirdly, that dreaded negotiation stage. I was really lucky. Before I did this job, at some point I did the picture buying for a design and build company for museums. So at least I had done some haggling before. But even that didn't leave me with, there were still times when it felt painful. I had one particular incident where it really went to the wire about 48 hours before they came to film. We hadn't actually agreed the fee yet, and I got very nervous and had very little sleep. But I think the point was I tried really hard to have an evidence base on which I negotiated. So just like Stuart was saying about knowing what the price is that you are actually, or the cost that you're going to incur with this business venture, helped me enormously to say to the producers, well, for starters, I can't do it for free. I'm not going to pay you to do your job. But equally, we're a charity, and if you do this well, and this is my cost, then they can be convinced, even though I swear every single one told me at the beginning that they could not pay me. I think that's the opening gambit we just have to accept. And then finally, it's about using your networks. As I said, as an organisation at that point, we weren't very savvy about how to deal with the media. And I had to learn quickly enough through my peer groups and through the resources that were out there. It really, really helped me because it made me more confident. Even though they might not have all been exactly what I was looking for, at least I felt like when I picked up the phone again and I had to have that conversation again, I felt I knew what I was talking about. And that's really my final concluding pitch to you, is to hopefully take the best advantage of the support that is out there for you. And given how important business diversification is, it's high tide that museum development does their bit. And if you are a member of the museum community in the southeast, then please, please approach us from the 1st of April onwards. There is a small grant fund available. If you want to try something for the first time, a little bit of a business idea where maybe just a bit of training or a bit of research, a bit of that cost-benefit analysis or so would help you take a risk out of that opportunity, then let us help you. £500 up for grabs from the 1st of April, one application per organisation per year. It's only one condition. you've got to share what you learn out of the experience, and that is really what it's all about, is that sharing. And then I think something similar may well come our way in the east of England, so watch that space and have a chat to the guys at the stand afterwards if that's something you're interested in. There are so many resources out there. In terms of our websites, you can see them up there. Especially on IPR, I've just been able to thieve the wonderful fact sheets that our museum development colleagues in Yorkshire have produced. Everything from how to do an IPR audit, how to exploit it, template contract, it's all there. It's there waiting for you to make money out of this opportunity, so please use it. And finally, if there's absolutely nothing there for you to use and you're lost, we have a help hub side where you can basically just post a little blog help, and maybe there's a museum out there who's done it before, and they will be able to help you. So, thank you very much.